you think that people aren't being encouraged to enjoy reading, or they feel that reading is a kind of, it has to be a completely passive act where you're just scanning the lines? How many times do you hear people say, oh, I open a book and I read a line 6, 7, 8 times, but I don't move on? They kind of just want to soak up the book without, getting into it.
Well, this is the reading. I mean, short of having telepathic art, where if you have an idea for art and could zoom it across the Atlantic into my mind, reading is the closest thing you can get to telepathy. I can open up The Tale of Genji, written by a Japanese woman 1,000 years ago, and I can have an idea of what Japan was, not just by the story she's telling, but what she describes. I've always said the best way to write about a character, don't tell me what the character looks like. What does that character observe? If you read a great book like A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, I don't know if you've had, the little girl in that, she describes the smell of bread. She describes the Italian immigrants that are working on the street as she's walking by. She describes how bad you are put into the place. What a character sees is much more important than what. How many times have you read a book, for example, and this is modern MFA theory, describe it more. What's the term that they use is expanded, or Jessica would know better than I do because she's
like a stream of consciousness, kind of synesthetic kind of stuff, like very.
But open it up. All the best writing generally tends to be, and not always, but generally tends to be, give what you need to convey what you want to say, but nothing more, because you always want to have interactivity. And when you have interactivity, for example, people often will look at something like Moby Dick and say, well, why does he have all of those chapters about, what an anchor looks like, or what whale, the history of whaling? Well, that's to give background so that when you go to the actual chase for the whale, or you get to the interactions between the crewmates, you have some of that background that you yourself can create a milieu of. Now, some of it is probably not needed, but it doesn't detract from the book. And how many times have you read a book? There are here. You got the Man Booker Prize over in England. In the U.S., we have the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award. And all of these MFA writers, all they do, they can't develop character. Character is always just, this person says this, that person says that, this person has a secret. How are they going to find out? It's a soap opera, and I love soap operas. I've watched soap operas for 40 years, but I don't look for soap opera for literature, just like I don't look to eat healthy food by gorging myself on candy. And people will say, but life is so hectic, life is so bad, I need to have something. Listen, if you think life is bad in the year 2019, go back to 1919. Go back to 1019. 1019 was before the Normans conquered your country. 1019 was when the Vikings were ransacking it. You could get cholera and die. Even with all the problems we have about injustice and global warming, we're in a lot better position than we were 100 or 1,000 years ago. People today, you should be indulging your mind in the Project Gutenbergs.
Yeah, it is troubling, isn't it? You think that this access to information would create a kind of a golden age of autodidacticism, that people would be able to plug into all this kind of archived art and knowledge and stuff. But I suppose what I was asking was that, like, I don't think that young people are, and when I say young people, I don't just mean teenagers. I mean like toddlers and such. That they don't have books in the house. They don't have they don't see any interest in literature in their parents and everything. Reading becomes a kind of a rote exercise that's associated with education, something you have to go in and you have to be forced to come to grips with all these Shakespeare books and such. It becomes labor in the mind of people.